Please use chat to communicate me so that I can correct it. Second, we are using SQL Server Startup User. In this, we have to make sure that our SQL Server should be started with a user. Just you can see here my SQL Server services. Here you can see I have 3 instances of SQL Server which are started with a username called as admin. Okay, you have to make sure that this gives additional security to your server. If you select a local if you select here the startup user as a local one, as a local system, only the connections will be occupied from the local system itself, and SQL Server can be accessed by any other system in the local environment. Okay, and the second best thing is, after creating a startup user and starting your SQL Server with that user, now you have to lock memory in by using, you can use, well, before telling SQL Server log pages in the memory, you may get a question why we have to lock it. Reason is that you have start, just a second. Okay, you have started your SQL Server with a specific user, and you should add that user to lock pages in the memory, so that here the admin is the startup user used to start the SQL Server, and that admin user must be allowed to lock memory pages, allowed to reserve the memory, I mean RAM, to the SQL Server. This can be done by using secpol.msc. Here, after opening, you can use gpedit.cpl also to open the local security policy. Local security policy can be opened by using secpol.msc. By running it in the run command, then click on security, local policies. In the local policies, select user rights assignment. In the right side of it, you can see here memory lock pages in the memory. Okay, here it is not there, and now I am going to add it. Just right click, go to properties, add a user group, add the user. Okay, very simple. Open local security policies. Then in the security settings, go to local security policy. Inside the security policy, go to user rights assignment, and then select lock pages in memory. Then add the user over there. This action requires a restart for best performance. I'm not doing it as of now. Okay, and the second best thing most of the junior DBAs forget to implement is antivirus. When you have for best practices, you have to exclude your MDF, LDF files, including system databases and user databases. You have, in simple words, you have to exclude system databases and user databases files and file groups from scanning it. As I have Windows Defender in my laptop, I will show you how to do it. But just open your antivirus, go to settings, and there you can see exclude files and locations. You can exclude files or else location, or even you can exclude all the processes also. Microsoft Security Baseline is still in scan. Next is firewall. There are very few small companies which holds a single DBA, and it is your whole and sole responsibility to make sure that your database as well as your database server is secure or not. For that, we as a part of best practice, daily when you go to office, mainly on your production servers or else any critical servers, just type xp_ read error log and run it. And just go to the last line of it. If you see anything suspicious here, suspicious means I can share you data like this. If you see your error log filled with these type of data, if you see your error log with these type of data, login failed for SA reason, error occurred while evaluating the passwords, and here is the IP. And please make sure that if this IP belongs to your environment, then that is fine. But if there are any hits trying to access your server from outside your environment, then make sure from where this IP is. Just copy the IP, copy it. We have lots of Google tools. In it, type, just give trace IP, give the suspicious IP name, and here you can see the details of the IP, its location. Here is it. I have an IP location is somewhere in Orange in United States, and make sure that it is not in your environment. If you're 100% sure that he's nowhere related to your environment, he's nowhere your client or nowhere he's allowed to access your database, then you have to block that IP in the firewall. To block it, there is a very simple way. Here is the text, and I now go show you how to do it. Open as run as administrator. There you type netsh adv firewall. If you are using Windows Server 2008 and above, you have to use ADV firewall. If you are using Windows Server 2003 and below that, netsh firewall is the command to edit. Add rule, name is equal to, we'll give it as test underscore block protocol is equal to any here protocols means you can say that a TCP/IP protocol, UDP protocol, FTP or anything. If you write on any, all the protocols will be blocked. All the protocols, when you type action is equal to block, then it will be blocked. What needs to be blocked? A remote IP 174.139.84.250. Okay. If you have more than one suspicious IPs in your error log, you can use Excel to add the last one line. Okay. Coming back to our environment. The page file. Page file can be blindly set as an formal and very nearby extension to your RAM services. It is the data which is accessed, it is the data which is very much nearer to your RAM, and if you have to set it not more than 150% of an initialized RAM, and 150 if you have 4 GB of memory, then your page file should not be more than 6 GB. If it is less than 6 GB, there will be performance issues. If you have more than 6 GB, obviously your server slows down. Okay, now our Microsoft Baseline Security Analyzer is ready with the report, and we'll just have a view into it. Here you can see SQL Server security. No security updates are missing, which is a good sign. Here some Microsoft Windows Security 7 updates are missing. It just thinks that my laptop is upgraded from Windows 7 to 8. Then it is blindly searching for Windows 7 missing updates. You can ignore it. Microsoft Office, ignore it. Developer tools, you can ignore it. Okay, and just print this report and give it to your manager, saying that our servers are secure as per Microsoft standards. Hello? Is my voice audible? Okay then, thanks. Let's continue. Now, as a part of best practices, you have to choose operating system, a drive for an operating system, a separate drive for an SQL Server installation, MDF files on a separate drive, LDF files on a separate drive, backup on a separate drive, temp DB as per the optimized standards. Okay, from Windows Server 2008, you can see WinSX folder, which is located in C Windows System 32. Is all when you patch, the folder occupies the space. Good. This is missing in this folder is missing as I am using a Windows 8. Okay. Never delete the data in your WinSX folder. Reason is that WinSX folder downloads all the required service packs and all its MSI files from Microsoft downloads and stores in it. If you delete, you will start facing a problem of installing service packs on your Windows server. Okay, as a part of a disaster recovery, create a Windows user on your server and keep it in a disabled state. Reason is that when any vulnerabilities occurs, or else all your system password expires, or all your system server users got locked out, then you can enable this Windows user which is in disabled state. Then you can start unlocking all the other users in it. And this will be if you are using a domain server, if all your SQL servers are in a domain, and if anything worst happens with the domain server's active directory, then the separate admin user which is in disabled states helps you a lot. Second thing, when coming to the next slide, SQL Server optimal settings. The first best optimal settings is that without proper knowledge and communications, never ever enable XP underscore CMD shell option in your SQL Server. It's the process one, and will come out, and I will show you how to enable and how to disable it. Second thing is that XP underscore read error log is the error log for your SQL Server, and there is a separate error log for your agent services, and you have to increase its retention period. By default it comes with 7. You have to increase it up to 30 as minimum. Next one is OLE automation procedures. Enabling this OLE automation procedures, data can be accessed from other functions outside your SQL Server. A function written in any application in any web server can start accessing your data if OLE automation procedure is enabled in it. Next is remote admin connections or dedicated admin connections. Then we show you what. Okay, let's discuss about how to click on management. Click on management, then go to SQL Server error logs. There right click on it, click on configure. Here you can see the limit of error logs as 6. This can be set up to 99 max. It's 100, the current one plus 99 files. If it is 6, the minimum value is 6. 6 means the current one plus 6 old files. If you keep it for 99, or else we use 30. Okay. When you run XP underscore read error log command, when your database engine starts, it identifies it it identifies the server or operating server, SQL Server, manufacturer of your system manufacturer. Here you can see system manufacturer as here you can see system manufacturer as HP. Then it is a physical server. Then how do you identify a for you question, guys, how do you identify a server is a physical or a virtual one? Please use chat. How do you identify that the SQL server you are using is a physical server or a virtual one? Hello. Huh. But just if you see here, system manufacturer as a VMware. Hey, I have a answer. Mm. Huh. If you see system manufacturer as system manufacturer, here you will be seeing as VMware. Or if you see it as a virtual, then it is a virtual server. Okay, always use uh, mm, let us go back to the screen. Mm. Uh, okay, OLE automation, remote desktop, remote admin connection, which is also called as a dedicated admin account. How do you configure it and why do we use it? Reason is that when we have user level stress, or else a single user is unable to access the SQL server. In simple, you have a user called as test123 user, and you have set an extremely high authentication features over it, and that user got expired, or else you have misspelled the password 5 times and it gets locked. Then how do you access it? Just a second, guys. Hmm. At the time, you can use dedicated remote dedicated admin account connections to access it. TempDB optimization. In the TempDB optimization, Microsoft suggests that the number of processor count. If you have 4 concurrent processors running your SQL server, then you should have 4 TempDB files working over it. Okay, by default your SA user must be disabled, and as I said, save separate drive for operating system, SQL server installation, MDF, LDF, temp drive. Default port should never be used. Huh. What is the default port of SQL server? It is 1433. Very good. Uh, if I ask you the same question, what is the default port of SQL Server for a default instance, and what is the default port of SQL Server for a named instance? Simple. I have an answer to. Just a second, Rajashekaran. Okay. Very good. And another question: how many ports are available in Windows? how many number of ports are available in Windows. Okay, let it be. Huh. Next is, huh, when coming to the best practices of SQL Server, optimal settings of SQL Server, you have to consider one thing, which is memory. Mainly when you are dealing with the 64-bit operating system. Here you can see minimum memory is 0 MB and maximum memory is 2 TB. Okay, it is the maximum memory supported by SQL Server. I have a question to you. What is the max memory supported by SQL Server Standard Edition, which is running on Windows Server 2008 R2 Standard Edition? Question is, what is the maximum memory supported by SQL Server 2008 R2 Standard Edition, which is running on Windows Server 2008 R2 Standard Edition? It is 64 GB. I do agree that Microsoft SQL Server 64-bit can support up to 2 TB, but it is a 50-50 partnership of operating system as well as your SQL Server. If you have more than 64 GB installed on Windows Server 2008 Standard Edition, then it is of no use. Yes. Okay. Huh. Just to know how to, just here in a new query, run sp underscore configure show advanced options. Now when you run sp underscore configure, here you can see here you can see xp underscore cmd shell. The last value is 1, means it is enabled. If it is 0, then it is disabled. Then here you can see remote admin account, which is also called as dedicated admin account, which is disabled. Its value must be 1 and its value must be, you can use it, and unless and until you take out the risk, you should not support using or enabling xp underscore cmd shell command enabled on your SQL Server. Okay, what is this xp underscore cmd shell? as you know that here you can see how I have used xp_cmd shell command. Here if I give the, it is just like it is as simple as running all the DOS commands from your SQL Server window by enabling it. If you write down shutdown -o, and if I execute it, your complete operating system will be shut down. That's the reason you should not allow. Next is tempDB restarted port number default max memory. When coming over to speak about the max memory or memory settings, you can look into it by just running by looking at sp_configure. There you can see two options, minimum memory and max memory. Minimum memory settings and max server MB, or else you can use right click properties, go to memory, and here you can set the memory. How much to set for SQL Server, how much memory to set for a SQL Server. Think you have some 64 GB of memory running on your Windows Server, and you don't have any other applications hosted on it. It is literally a dedicated SQL Server, no other IIS or reporting services are installed on it. Then check for target memory and total memory in the perfmon. Okay, if it shows some 40 GB, then you can set the max memory to 40 GB. It is just simply as click on star run, go to perfmon, add counters, go to SQL Server Memory Manager, just a second. total target. Here you can see total and target memory. Just open the perform in the counters, go to SQL Server Memory Manager. Go to your SQL Server Memory Manager. uh, Memory Manager and add target server memory and total server memory. Here I can see some 2936 approximately of 2 GB of memory is required for my SQL server. Then I can close this window. Then I can go and set here as 2048. If you are setting this memory from 2008 and 2008 R2 does not require a restart, but 2005 and below it requires a restart. If you are using 32-bit operating system, then you will be having AWE addressing window extension, which limits the memory used for the SQL server. When coming to the database optimal settings, there are 5 main optimal settings which has to be considered. First one is auto close, auto shrink, auto update statistics, and auto growth. First thing is auto close on. Auto close on. What happens if you use auto close on for your production database? Okay, when every business has its odd hours and even hours. Odd hours means which we literally call it as an OOH, out of office hours. And at that moment, users stop connecting to your database, and if you set your database as auto close on, then all the cache memory allocated to your database will be flushed out. That is the reason for auto close on. Then why did Microsoft make this option? If it is allowed to be set closed on, then why it has to be created? It can simply it can simply disable that option, or it can simply remove that option, but it is required. There will be some servers and some clients who access their database once in a month, only once in a month. I have seen some clients who access the database only once in a month, just as a purchase inventory, which is done from a single client to a single client, one-to-one operations. Then they use auto close on. Once the user stopped connecting to the database, once the user stopped using the database, then SQL cache allocated to the database will be cleared and the memory will be accessed by the other running databases. That's a very good option of auto close on. But if you don't know what is happening, then keep it off. Next is auto shrink off. This option is not allowed in your production environment. Reason is that production environment must be with these two basic points. First thing is good user experience. Second thing is no lagging in jobs applications. If you keep auto shrink on in your database and there are some requests for database growth, then database will be growing and obviously it will be decreasing as this auto close on is set to be on. Means if you place SQL server place a request to increase the database by 10 GB, okay, 10 GB is allocated to your database. Then afterwards, as your database is having an option of auto close on, then it will be always trying to decrease the free release the memory allocated to your database. It's the reason why autoclose is not required. Auto update statistics are also not required. Reason is that uh, fragmentation level issues will be more, and your query execution time and the index fragmentations will be very badly affected. The most important thing is auto growth on. There, just remember a very simple thumb rule. Where do you see this auto growth on? Yes, right click on a database, go to properties, go to your file. Am I running fast? Saichand has a issue that just will wait. Now is that okay? I can see 93% of screen is audible to all the users. Okay. Right click, go to properties, go to files. Here you can see auto growth is 10 percentage of your file. Here you can see auto growth options. There are two auto growth options for your MDF file and LDF file. Log file is an LDF file. My database name is IMG, and here I can see by 1 MB unlimited means my database size is 4 MB. The next the next auto growth will be plus 1 MB. Then my database size will be increasing in incremental order as 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That will be the size of my MDF file. When coming to the size of LDF file, it is 10% of the size of MDF file, which means MDF file size is of 1 MB. Then 10% of 1 MB will be the size of auto growth size of my LDF file. Think my LDF file size is of 100 GB. Then the percentage of growth will be 10% of 100 GB means 10 GB will be the auto growth size of my LDF file, and which is limited. But never keep it as a limited one, just keep it as unlimited. As the size increases, auto growth size must be decreased. Means if you have 400 GB of database, okay, 400 GB of database, then check the scenario. Think this is a 400 GB of database. Then 40 GB will be the 10% of the initial size of the MDF file. Increasing 40 GB in the production environment when the users are connected on a very busy working day will or may give you an outage of it. For that, if your MDF file is more than 400 GB, then you have to set the percentage as much as possible. Keep it as 5. 20 GB will not take more than 2 seconds to increase the occupy the size of your MDF file. And the most regular question which I see in forums is that shrinking the database. Here you can, if you see shrinking the database, here database, my database has two files. One is MDF file and an is the LDF file, which is a log file. Shrinking the log file also kills the issue, kills the performance of your database server until and unless it is very huge. If your database initial size is 12 GB and your LDF file is 16 GB, then obvious reasons you have to shrink your LDF file. But if you try to shrink the data file, then server performance goes down. Secondly, fragmentations will be deleted. Okay, don't create a hectic problem to achieve some 40 or 50 percentage of disk space. Why? Because 40 GB of disk space is not equal to the current running live transactions on your server. Mm, Next is decide your recovery model. How there are three types of recovery models: full, simple, and bulk log recovery model. Full recovery model, each and every transactions has been noted into the LDF file. Want to see each and every transactions in your LDF file in your database, then type dbcc log info in your database. dbcc log info. By using the bulk log recovery model, there will be no rollback transactions. Okay, this is used when you are using SSIS packages to import data from other databases or other database engines where you are using BCP command to import the data, or else when you are using bulk insert command or data importing from any CSV files. Simple recovery mode. In the simple recovery mode, there is no up to point of recovery. Why? Because in simple recovery mode we can't take the transaction log backup. First thing. Second, LDF file checkpoint is raised when the 70 percentage of your LDF file is occupied. Do you think your LDF file is of 100 MB? Then as soon as the LDF file increases up to 70 MB, checkpoint is raised, all the transactions are committed and written to your MDF file, and the LDF file is cleared. If it is not clearing, then you have to look for the open transactions and also long running transactions which are running on your server. Okay, before we get into our last stage of last stage of thing, let us take a 2 minutes of break. Someone is knocking the door. I will attend it, come back. Welcome back. How to become an exceptional DBA? The simple answer is change log. Why change log? What is a change log? Change log is just an Excel file which is used to record your historic data into it. In simple, see the change log. Here you can see an Excel sheet which has date, server name, issue. Only 3 columns are used. It's a very simple thing. First is here, on 4th of January, there is a server name called as Chicago. We have faced an issue when we are installing service pack on it. On 9th January, we have faced a LSN log sequence number failure on our Norway server, and there is another server in Denmark. Server name is Denmark, and on 10th January, there was an issue with the tail log backup. Everything is noted over there, and at the quarterly or half yearly, with our regular job task, you just move to your manager and show him this task sheet, saying that we are having in the from the past 6 months, we are having 35 network related issues, 32 user tail log backup issues, 26 log LSN related issues, and 26 service pack related issues. And the foremost thing to improve your environment, improve the performance, improve the SLA of your servers, or improve your reputation, just ask him that there should be a improvement in our network for all the servers, as it is the most frequently faced issues. We have faced 35 times in our environment. This is all which helps you a lot to build your career or a good reputation in your organization. Until and unless you show them the stats, no one identifies how smart you work. Agreed, every DBA is a hard worker, but only few DBAs are smart workers. And start implementing change log in your organization, and you be the first one to become a smart DBA other than a hard-working DBA. Okay, how do patching related issues occurs? For that patching related or service pack related issues, we do our security Microsoft baseline security advisor to fine tune it. LSN numbers. How do we get LSN issues? This might be that you have scheduled agent services jobs on your database, and there is another third-party tool which takes backup of your database. Third-party tools just like TSM, Tivoli Storage Manager, or else vSpace, double take, or Lightspeed, anything it may be. These are going to change the LSN numbers. Then make sure that no two jobs are running at the same time, or else set your TS third party backup tool with copy only option, which is not going to change your LSN number. Third one is user tail log backups. Users make mistakes by taking the log backup and deleting them. Reason is that when the database in full recovery mode, it simply consumes the memory, and the user, many DBAs take the transaction log backup of the database, delete it, and try to shrink the database. But you have to remember that taking the LSN number without copy only option is definitely, you have to store the transaction log backup, or else you will be facing a big issue. By mistake, if you delete a transaction log backup, then no need to worry. Instead of taking a full backup, please to take differential backup with a transaction log backup, which resolves your issue. For network related issues, you can use TCP/IP view, or else a CAT-T, a third party tool which is used to monitor the performance of your networks. Okay. When speaking about few best practices, never make any change in the live or stage or production environment without a proper email or approval from your immediate manager. Second thing, when installing service packs or when installing SQL Server service updates or cumulative updates, please make a habit of taking the system databases. If the service pack fails, or else if the installed service pack is not performing up to your benchmark, then you are forced to roll back the installed service pack. And that moment, if you don't have a system database backup, then you have to start from the scratch by rebuilding your system databases, rebuilding your users, rebuilding your jobs, and whatever all. And use schema change history to monitor what are the changes done on your databases. Simply open your database, right click here. I don't have any, I have a table EMPS. Now I am going to delete it. Okay. To find out who and what they have deleted, just go to schema change history. Here you can see that Ramesh, username Ramesh, has dropped EMPS table at this time. Okay. How to the best practices of dropping a database in a production environment. One of my friend faced this issue. He got an email from development team saying that drop the database, which is whose with its size is of 120 GB, to drop it immediately. Then without a, as he got a confirmation email, he immediately dropped the database. Thereafterwards, he got another email that, can you please restore the database, or can you please get back the database which has been dropped just now, which is a hectic task. Why? Because restoring a 120 GB database may take off how 45 or 50 minutes of restoring it. The best way to deal it is, when you get a drop, or else make out a policy in your organization saying that when there is a request to drop a database, it will not be dropped immediately, but we'll be taking a database of the backup. We will keep the database offline for few days to make sure that no issues are occurred from the client side or from the development side. If nobody complains, nobody talks about the database for 1 week, then keep the backup and drop the database from your database server. This is the best practice of dropping a database server. Second, how do you restart a production server? You have client has confirmed that you, yes, go ahead and restart your production server. It is not a simple task by clicking on shutdown button or clicking on restart button to restart your SQL server. First thing, you should not restart your operating system. First, you have to stop the services. By clicking the stop services, you can use configuration manager. You can use configuration manager. Select the service, then click on stop. OK. Then you go and restart your complete operating system. Come back when your operating system is working fine. Then start your SQL server. This is the best advised way of restarting your SQL server. Don't use shutdown underscore no wait. Don't press the power, pull out the power cable. This means these two operations, running shutdown with no wait is, or pulling out the power cable of your SQL server, may set your business databases in suspect mode. Okay, that's all for today. Thank you all for attending the webinar. Any questions? Please use chat. Wow, I can see few attendees joining now also, but too late guys, we are done with the webinar. If you have any questions,